So you join me out on the mighty Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. It's a pretty moody looking Tuesday afternoon towards the end of March, but I really wanted to get out on the bike and let you guys know exactly what I think of it and whether indeed you should get one or consider other options. All right, let's get into it. So we've had the bike for about 6 weeks now, and I've not been able to get out on it as much as I'd like, it has to be said. Although I have actually been out on it obviously before this video, just to kind of get used to the bike, because it's not the kind of bike that you want to just literally jump on and just blam your way around. I mean, it's 180 horsepower at the end of the day. I'm not sure if you can see that down there, but that's how easy it was to get into neutral. There have been reports on how difficult it is to get into neutral. I've not actually experienced that personally. Oh, he says stalling it. I've not actually experienced that personally, but I'm sure there are cases obviously out there because they're well documented. So what do we think of it so far? I mean, I've been out on it probably 3 times now. I've actually been out on it 3 times to make a video for you guys. First time the microphone was absolutely bloody awful. Second time the camera angle was completely screwed up, and I bought myself a new purple Panda microphone, and that was actually worse than the original one. So today we're actually back with the Akaso and its dedicated microphone with a, I hate the term, dead cat on it. And hopefully we can finally make this video for you guys. Initial impressions are good, I have to say. It is a lot of fun. I mean, I've had a lot of speed triples, a lot of Triumphs, but a lot of speed triples, including the 955i's, the T509s, the 1050s, all that kind of good stuff. And I am a huge fan, and I really wanted to try this one out. And it just came along at the right time. I had a deal that seemed too good to be true, but in hindsight, I did overpay for the bike, it has to be said. I'm not going to lose money on it, he says, fingers crossed. But I certainly won't be making any money on it, but that's all right, because that's not what it's always all about. It's about experiencing bikes. That's what the channel's about. And at least I can say I've been on one, I've ridden it in anger almost, and I've pootled through town, and it does its job very well. Now the quick shifter, there has been talk of it being buttery smooth and incredible compared to other bikes. If I'm honest, I haven't found that. What I find on this is effectively when you change gear in anger, as I would call it, as in your full throttle and you're using the quick shifter up, it does lurch. It kind of has this delay before it clicks the next gear, which the Multistrada 1260X never did. I think that was equally as good, if not possibly better. So that was my initial finding. Again, if the sound quality is not brilliant on this video, guys, I do apologise. I'm experimenting at the moment between the Akaso V50X, the DJI Osmo Action 3, various different microphones. I've got another microphone actually coming today. I've ordered and sent back 6 different setups basically for the pair of cameras that I'm going to be using, just trying to get everything as I want it. Anyway, I digress. We'll have a little blip up here and you can see exactly what the torque and acceleration is like on here. We're doing 47, 6 gear, pin it back. And then we're back down to 40. What's it like at 35, 40 miles an hour in 6 gear? It doesn't like it, I have to say. The 1050 didn't used to be too bad. It doesn't like it. We'll try 5th. It doesn't mind 5th so much, but I think you need to be in 4th really at that kind of town speed, as it were. But it'll sit like this quite happily. I have taken it out on the motorway. I don't think I'm going to do that today. There was a guy, Sergeant Seldom I think he is. He's got a channel on YouTube, check him out. He's had one of these. He's also had the MT10, which I think he's got right now. And he's had a Super Duke, and so I've been chatting to him about which one he prefers. And I think, generally speaking, if it hadn't been for the problems he had initially with his 1200 RS, it was his favourite out of the MT10 and the Super Duke and the RS 1200. He actually preferred, I think, this one, and I can see why. For me, I'm going to compare it directly to the Multistrada 1260S. Just because that's the fastest bike apart from this I've ever owned, and I've had 2 of them, as you know, if you've been subscribed for a while. We've just released, I think, or it's coming up, another video on the 1260S. So I wanted to compare that to this. I mean, obviously the riding position is completely different. This feels more like it's got a set of rear sets on it, if I'm honest. It's not incredibly comfortable for a guy of my age, being 57, 58 this year. I've got little problems with my hips, and you can feel that. And you are kind of slanted into the bike far more so than perhaps the original 1050. I'd love to try the 1050 RS as well, but I didn't buy one because of the fear of the chocolate gearboxes, which are well documented as well. This one's just actually had a recall. I'm supposed to be going in on Thursday to Triumph in Plymouth to have a recall done. because the fans kick in too early. The computer thinks that it's overheating or something with the radiator, so they've got to flash the ECU to tell it to bring him in later, I think it is. So far that's the only recall that I know about, in the UK at least. But essentially there are far fewer negatives on this bike than there are positives. I mean, the way it falls into the corners is just sublime. It really feels like we are riding a street triple, far more so than a speed triple. The steering is so light and incredible. But it is a bit of a hooligan, it has to be said. It does make you want to act like a twat, basically. And that's great if that's what you're after. You want to go out on a Sunday with your mates and just really blam it around everywhere, safely of course, and within the speed limits. This is the ultimate weapon for that. The downside for me is that I don't think I could tour on it because they've got a little seat cowl at the back. I mean, I've got a seat actually coming on order, but they're on back order, so I don't know how long that's going to take to arrive from Triumph. But even if I had a seat on there, throw over panniers would be a nightmare because of the flat silver, flat grey paintwork. I'd be so scared of kind of rubbing it with the straps or the luggage, I wouldn't do it. Whereas the GSX 1400, which we still got by the way, would be a perfect tool for that because it doesn't owe me 10 grand and you know, it's got enough room that you could throw luggage over. So that would be just as much fun, I think, on a Sunday afternoon. But you could also go touring on it. This, yeah, not so much. I mean, this bike would have been awesome for me when I was 27. At 57, I'm not so sure, if I'm honest. I enjoy it, I really do enjoy it, but I couldn't ride this for more than an hour without having to get off and have a stop, I don't think. It's not too vibrational at motorway speeds. I've tested that out, as I said. It's okay. It's no worse than the GSX, if I'm honest. It's probably slightly better being the triple as opposed to the inline four. But if you want to do motorway stuff and still have fun at the weekends, I think the Multistrada 1260 is a hard bike to beat. It could finally be, in hindsight, my ultimate unicorn bike. I love the way it looks, I love the way it sounds, I love the way it rides. You can go touring on it, you can have fun at the weekends. It's just the servicing, isn't it? And the depreciation, as you know from the one I bought, which had relatively high miles, the depreciation just smacks you straight in the arse. So I'm going to wait to see if I can find a bargain one again and perhaps go back to that. I'm not sure. I mean, ideally what I'm going to do, I mean, I'll be completely honest, I'm probably not going to keep this bike. I wanted to try it and I've done so, and it's got a lot of positives, far more so than negatives. But for me, as I said, cracking on for 60, it's just too much to handle, I think, and it doesn't offer enough practicality. Although on a day like today it's fine. I mean, it's 11 degrees, we've got heated grips of course, I've got all my thermal long johns on, so I'm all good. You know, it's not a sort of bike you can only ride in the summer, but of course with this kind of power you don't want to be anywhere near wet leaves, wet manhole covers, that kind of stuff. You may notice we've changed a couple of things as well since the initial kind of walk around. I put this kind of tinted visor fly screen thing on top of the color coded one just because I think it looks much nicer, and it does actually offer a tiny bit more protection on the motorway. But they're not cheap, like anything with a new bike, you know, they're not cheap. You can get the whole kit from China for about 80 quid I think, but if you just want the tinted screen then you're kind of stuck with the whole front fairing, or front bikini fairing as it were, just to get your hands on the tinted additional visor, which just clips in with 2 screws. I suppose what you can do is buy the kit, which also comes in carbon fibre as well, so if you're into a bit of that, then why not? And then you use the visor, and then you sell the kit to somebody on one of the forums for 50 quid, and you've only paid 20-30 quid for the visor. I think that's the way I'd go. I'm not going to tell you which way I went. Now, comfort-wise, this again has been well documented on the 1200 RS. It's got Öhlins all round, of course, and it is stiff. You know, there's no getting over that. I mean, we're going down a pretty rough road now, and you can feel every little bump, and far more so than most other bikes I've ridden, I have to say. But again, going back to what I was saying, this is a weekend canyon carving scalpel of a bike. You know, if you buy a sports car, you want it to be low down, stiff suspension, amazing handling, and that's what you get with this. The payoff for all that fun is the fact that you've got quite stiff suspension, and it's not even electronic, which I gotta say at this price point I was surprised to see that it wasn't an electronic suspension. I mean, on the Ducati, going back to that, you can adjust things on the fly, as it were, via the screen, which I thought was a great touch. You can't do that here. You can adjust it, of course you can, it's fully adjustable, but you know, you've got to get off the bike. I mean, you can probably hear from my voice how vibrational it is. And you've got different riding modes, but that doesn't affect the suspension, which is a bit of a nightmare, although it does on the Ducati. I keep going back to that. Guess what I'm going to be buying next again? I wonder. Another thing that is just an observational thing, another review I watched, because if you're like me, you watch 1,000 reviews before you pull the trigger, is the dash. Although the dash is fine, it's a relatively big square box down there, 5 inches I believe. You have to keep looking down at it. There was a guy who's got an MT10 SP, and he said he preferred his MT10 because the eyeliner for the dash was directly in front of him, and he had to look down at the RS dash, which I totally agree with him actually. Although I've never ridden an MT10, you do have to keep looking down to see what you're up to speed-wise, gear, all that kind of good stuff, which is a little bit annoying. And I'm not a massive fan of the round dial on a square box. I think that looks a little bit odd. I don't understand why they've done that, if I'm honest. There's so much space there, and there's so much real estate there, and it's not being used. There's a tiny little dial in the middle, nothing to the left, nothing to the right, up or down. It's just a weird choice, I think. It would have been nice if we could have done what they did again on the Multistrada. When you choose a different riding mode, it changes everything on the dash, as in you have different rev counter, different speedo, you know, some things are added, some things are taken away. I think that would have been brilliant on here. But alas, no, you just get a square box with a round dial, which again I think is, I don't know, it's a bit Marmite, I guess, in that respect. You either like it or you don't. I'm kind of neutral about it. The other thing I've noticed is the riding modes themselves. I have to tell you, I personally don't see a huge amount of difference between road and sport. I haven't done it in rain yet because I don't take my bikes out in the rain, but I should have done that, I guess, as a comparison. But yeah, I didn't find a huge difference between road mode and sports mode. It's still mad acceleration, whereas with the Ducati, again, we're going to do that comparison, whereas with the Ducati, you take it from touring into sport, you know you're in sport. The dials change, the throttle response changes, the suspension changes, everything changes. It's a far better setup, I think. Up and down quick shifter, of course, with auto blipper, which is nice, but as I mentioned earlier on, I think there is a delay on the hard acceleration going up in the gears. It's not terrible, but it's just, it lurches you, I have to tell you. Brakes are sublime, as you would expect from Triumph. We've got Stylema calipers here from Brembo on the front. The back brake, which people were saying was brilliant, I found that to be completely opposite. Could be this bike, of course, but there is zero back brake. I mean, I'll go down here now and I'll stand on the back brake and you'll see what I mean. So, yep, we're not stopping, are we? Okay, brilliant. I did actually change in the settings the auto cancel for the indicators as well. What I found with that is that they auto cancel far too quickly. I mean, you put them on approaching a roundabout, by the time you've hit the roundabout, they've already turned themselves off, which is bizarre to me. I've wondered why people kept pulling out on me on roundabouts, and it's just purely because I thought I'd indicated, and I had, but the auto cancel had cancelled them out. I don't know if there's a way you can set that timer for when they cancel out. If anybody knows about that, please chime in and let me know in the comments section. If I sound a little bit snotty as well, guys, I do apologise, but you know, it's March and it's cold and I'm on a bike. But yeah, the indicators, I've set them back to manual now because they kept switching off far too quickly. I mean, you'd think there'd be a GPS gyro thingy in here somewhere where, you know, if you put it to the right, it'll know when you've gone right and then you're back straight again. I don't think that's the way it works. I think it's just on a timer, which, as I said, maybe you can change the timing, I don't know. But I couldn't stand it, so I put it back to manual. So as a gimmick, yeah, doesn't work so well, does it? Plus, for a massive dash, the indicator, I'll show you there, look, the indicator is tiny, the little symbol. On a sunny day, I'm not sure you'd see that. Oh great, now we need petrol. Fabulous. But as I've said, and I do apologise for repeating myself, there are far more positives than there are negatives. But 10 grand, really? I don't know if it's worth 10 grand. I mean, alright, it's a 2021 bike, so it's relatively new. But I've been looking around. You can buy an MT10 SP with 5,000 miles on it, you know, that beautiful colour screen and all the rest of it, and you can pick them up for the same price now on a 1920 plate privately. And I'd love to, and I'm hoping to be able to bring you a review on that, and then we can make a direct comparison more so than with the Multistrada. Because the first thing that I spotted on this bike the second it arrived is just how small it is. It is tiny for a 1200cc bike. It feels like a little kind of 750 at best, far more so like the Street Triple, which is probably why it handles more so like the Street Triple, because it is a diddy little bike and I'm 6 foot and I feel like a bloody giant on it, whereas the MT10, you've got a bigger kind of bit of real estate in front of you, I think. So that was, I mean, literally the second it turned up I thought, oh Christ, this is tiny. Going back to the quick shifter, I've just noticed there as well, I should have mentioned it earlier on, that if you're not actually on the power, as it were, if you're not pinning back the throttle, then the quick shifter works perfectly fine. It only seems to be when you're really putting it under load that it has that lurch kind of delay. Mirrors are brilliant, as you would expect with original Triumph bar end mirrors. Of course, they are absolutely stunning, but bloody expensive. What else can I tell you about the bike in my little experience that I've had with it. It's a lot of fun, as I said, but for 10 grand, I mean, I've had as much fun on a 5 grand bike. In fact, I've had as much fun on a 2 grand bike as I can have on this. All right, yeah, you didn't get all the technology that you will get with these, of course, but if it's just a bit of Sunday afternoon kind of madness that you're after, you don't really have to spend 10 grand. If you're going to do track days and you've got 10 grand burning a hole in your pocket and you want the best super naked you can get, I don't think you can go far wrong with the RS 1200, if I'm honest, as long as you're prepared to put up with a very lurchy quick shifter, in my opinion, by the way, crazy stiff suspension, a very sporty riding position, I would say. I mean, not so much with the bars, but with your legs, your hips to your ankle kind of ratio. That's the first thing I noticed. I mean, even now, after what, we've been out 15 minutes, and I can feel it starting to have an effect on my sciatic nerve and my hips. That's probably my age, but again, you know, this isn't really an age appropriate bike for me, I don't think. 27, yeah, great. 57, yeah. But I really want to try out the MT10, as I said, so watch out for that. It'll probably be coming to the channel, hopefully in 2024. But for this, no, I'm not going to keep it. Why? Because it's too expensive, and I've already got the GSX, and I can't afford to have 2 bikes outside. I wish I could, and if I could, I'd keep it. 2, because as you know, we try to test out as many bikes as we can on the channel, so obviously this isn't going to be my major ride, and I don't think it would be my daily ride anyway. I get freaked out about owning expensive bikes, and I shouldn't really have bought this, but the dealer offered me such a deal on the Multistrada, the white one, which I'm not sure if you've seen the videos on, or if it's up and coming. We'll know by now, I'm sure, that I couldn't resist it. But then I ended up overpaying for the bike. So yeah, I'm glad I've tried it. I really am glad I've tried it. I can say that I've had pretty much all the speed triples now. And it's not just going to the showroom of a dealer and saying, can I try out your bike for 10 minutes and then trying to give you guys my opinion on it. I think that's a crap way of doing things. I've been out on this half a dozen times. I own it. I bought it. I can tell you honestly what I think of it. I'm not being paid or promoted to give you the spiel. But like I said, if you want a Sunday canyon carving scalpel of a bike, then yeah, great, get one of these, why not? But you all should also consider obviously the MT10, the MT10 SP, and if you want a bit more comfort and more practicality, then the Multistrada 1260S might be your way to go, depending on your age. So that's been it. That has been the ride review on the 2021 Triumph Speed Triple 1200 RS. I hope you've enjoyed it. Obviously we've got more content coming up real soon, some special stuff for this year, I'm hoping. If you like this video, give it a like, a share, a thumbs up, all that kind of good stuff. I really appreciate it. Doesn't cost you anything, takes you a millisecond, and it means the world to me. But that, from Budget Cars and Bikes, is it for the Speed Triple RS. As I said, I hope you enjoyed it. Give the video a like, a share, a thumbs up, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we will catch up real soon. Take care, guys. Thanks for watching.